off to an amazing start. Oh, this is remarkable racing.
Well,
I hear a crash.
I have tried to get it going again, so.
I hope we got that on there.
It says we're starting, okay.
5 now.
Yep. Apologies for
got
the problems we've had. Obviously, YouTube and OBS having a bit of a disagreement, but we've just started. Half a lap in.
That'll be a track cut there.
We've got Brendan Ross leading Topher at the moment, and Gary Neville's dropped through the field. He's down to 8th after starting 4th, I believe, or 3rd. So we see Brendan Ross all kinds of sideways on the first lap. Oh, but he's floored it and held onto it, but he's ran wide and in the barrier, and something has come off the back of his car there, and that has given...
A few cars are struggling through there as well. Big dog behind ran wide as well. A lot of dust on the track there. Someone else gone off, I think.
Just ran wide, I believe. So Topher, I don't believe he won in season 1 of the Rookie Cup. He currently leads, and I don't think he'd have any damage on his car. Obviously, it remains to be seen how bad the damage will be, as Brian Walsh has got a penalty.
Yeah, not the best start from Topher, but that does seem to have given him quite an advantage as he stayed out of all the mess.
He certainly has, as obviously Ross getting his compulsory pit stop out of the way and repairing some damage too, I'd imagine.
It'd be interesting to see how his tyres are going by the end of the race.
So
he's doing all 4 tyres.
So here another crash behind us. David Keane now up into 2nd place. Big Dog in 3rd.
Oh, Brian Walsh I think had a go at Mike Coulston but ran wide, and Coulston's got the position back now. And
Glenn Miles has retired from the race.
So he must have been the one that...
We've still got Brendan Ross in the pits. Obviously the car with quite a bit of damage for him to still be stationary.
He did.
Has he guess got away now?
Yeah, just got away. Obviously these walls do bite here, and obviously a bit of damage in these things. They're not professional pit crew, so obviously taking a bit of time to repair that damage and change his tyres. So obviously got Topher leading, David Keane 2nd. The big dog is in P3.
And we've got Gary Neville, who had a poor start to the race. He was down in 8th position, already back up into 5th and getting quite close to Mike Coulston. Just around a 2nd between those two at the moment.
He is, obviously we did see in qualifying that he was pretty handy. Obviously he is faster than all those in front of him aside from David Keane. So it'll be interesting to see if he fights his way back from where he is. Obviously Keane seems to be a little bit faster in the race now that he's got a couple more laps under his belt. But
a little bit of strategy with when he comes in for the pits could help him a long way here.
Certainly could. So David Keane getting a bit of airtime there.
Topher's using a fair bit more of his front tyres already than anyone else. Obviously we're not down to a point where it's going to be noticeable wear, but he is probably about 5% more wear on his tyres.
Obviously putting a lot more work in. Obviously will be the tyres that he will change at the pit stop, but obviously you don't want to wear him out and have Keane close up towards the end of a stint.
That's where it's a mistake, but Keane's taken 1.2 seconds out of Topher this lap already.
That's the Farkenel Racing Academy helping him there.
And down the back, Neville and Coulston both ending up going off the road at the double left-hand corner.
Just having a look at Big Dog at the moment. He's not really getting any closer to David Keane, but he's also not really losing much time at all. He's just sort of holding his pace, and
he's doing a really solid job so far.
If he can keep this up, he should be in for quite a good result. Be able to pick up any of the pieces if the two in front happen to go wrong.
Certainly, he is close enough to capitalise on any mistakes from those two. And it is easy to pick up a driver cut, and obviously, as we've seen, it is easy to spin at that double left hand corner, or as called, but is its official name is Curvao, I believe its pronunciation. Well, terrible pronunciation anyway.
Curveo.
Curvao, yes.
If we're going to do it wrong, let's just do it horribly.
Curvao.
David Keane is now... It was just under a second, now it's just crept back up over. The gap at the front, not a big one at all.
He has brought it down as Brendan Ross sets the fastest lap down in, 7th place, last of the runners. It was at the start of this lap, Topher had it up to as high as 1.6, but obviously that middle sector, David Keane...
Topher much faster through that final section because it's just gone back up to 1.7.
It's just that final turn, I believe, because they were pretty close going into the penultimate turn, but that last turn, he's put 0.5 of a second on David Keane.
David Keane seems to be quicker in sectors 1 and 2, whereas Topher's got it covered in the 3rd sector and the run onto the straight.
Again though, Topher has used a lot more tyre than Keane already. He's probably about 4% more wear on the tyres, which doesn't sound like much, but as they get to the end of this stint, every little bit's going to count.
It will be interesting to see who does pit first out of these two. Obviously, Topher has used his tyres up a bit more, but maybe the undercut might be the way to go for David Keane. Just to get that...
Yeah, Brendan Ross has just made the same mistake again, hitting the same wall.
And as I said earlier, he is no longer my hero.
With, it looks like, considerable damage again.
This time, oh yeah, all out of shape there at the final turn. Looks like he's crabbing quite a bit down the straight. Yeah, he's got significant suspension damage. He's having to hold that wheel on a fair angle down the straight there. Topher's...
the front right corner of that car is looking...
Mike Coulston has also made a mistake. He's missing his wing on my screen.
Oh, it's Big Dog. He's pitting, but he's...
Brendan Ross just up on 2 wheels. Sorry to cut across you. It looks like we've got just everyone making mistakes together here.
Big Dog entering the pits, hit the barrier, and then hit the fencing again. And something did come off the back of his car. I don't know how bad the damage is, but that's certainly not ideal.
A bit of damage to the front of his car as well, but while we've been distracted by all this...
Oh, as Brian Walsh goes round. Brian Walsh goes round in P6 as Mike Coulston just in front of him recovers without a rear wing.
With all that going on, Topher's got the gap back up to 2.7 seconds to David Keane now, so... Maybe he was just taking it easy for a few laps there in the middle.
Perhaps he just needed to find a little bit of rhythm to get himself going, and he's finally found it. So, after all the pit stops and some errors, Gary Neville's now found his way up to P3, where he started. But he is yet to pit.
Mike Coulston's in the pit to repair his damage and take his CPS.
He'll be sitting there for a while, I imagine. And Brendan Ross jumping in front of him, full position too, so... Could be vital every position Ross gets in this race.
Big Dog obviously didn't suffer too much damage in that little incident he had on the way into the pits, as he's come out still ahead of Brendan Ross.
Still 20-second advantage over him.
But we have seen Brendan Ross has had further issues and is likely driving with a severe amount of damage.
Certainly is. We've got Brian Walsh in P4 at the moment. He's sort of on his own. He hasn't pitted yet, so he will probably drop down behind Big Dog and Brendan Ross. The gap at the front has extended out to 2.8 seconds now, with Keane just dropping off a little bit and Topher running pretty consistently at the moment.
It looks like Topher may have been pushing very hard in the early laps, hence the slightly more worn tyres, and just eased off a bit to make sure he'd make it through till his planned stop time, and now he's just pushing again, so he has that safety barrier behind him.
That's right, although the first sector this lap, David Keane did light it up, set a purple first sector with an 18.7, but lost a tenth of that, being a tenth slower in the middle sector to Topher. So gaining a little bit, but not enough at this stage. And as we see Topher go around again, and looks like David Keane doing the same. So these guys going a fair way in, obviously just past halfway. See, their tyres are fine. And it doesn't look like Gary Neville behind him in third is pitting either. No, he goes around again.
Mike Coulson going very, very slow on the beginning of the back straight. It looks like he might just be letting traffic past.
He is a lap down on the field, so that yeah, is the case, I believe.
Couple of interesting redesigns these guys further back have made to the front and backs of their cars.
Obviously not happy with the modern day Mini Coopers. They're not exactly mini anymore.
They're just trying to compress them on the walls a bit to that little bit of a retro feel.
Yeah, it's it. So obviously you want a bit more of a compact.
That's adaptive aerodynamics, that is.
Topher slowing on the back straight.
Yeah, this gap has just come right back down. It's almost down to a second.
He is pitting.
Keno's gained over a second just on the back straight.
It's around 3/4 of a second, the gap between them now. That's
purple middle sector from Keane, but Topher's middle sector, he has made a mistake of 32.7. So, and he is pitting this lap, and Keane goes around again. So, right on board Topher. See if he makes the same mistake Big Dog does. Very wide. Nice and clean. He didn't seem to make too many mistakes on the pit entry there. So pressure's on David Keane now. One good lap could see him jump into the lead.
Yeah, you'd like to see Keno come in this lap. Oh, we got a yellow flag.
Brendan Ross. Brian Walsh, sorry.
Brian Walsh.
Mistake.
So Topher, as you see Ross go off, Topher has just left his pit box and exiting the pits.
Have we had Gary Neville in for a stop yet?
No, I don't believe he's pitted yet. So he's also going pretty long, and Topher, going by the timings, about 10 seconds behind him.
Neville and Keane will be just having to push as hard as they can right now if they want to gain anything from this, from just going on longer than the other guys.
Well, Keane especially, obviously he can take the lead with a good lap here, and obviously the same with Topher. He has to put in a really good outlap here if he wants to retain that lead, and I don't believe he won last season, so he'll be looking to put in a good lap here. And
Keane's in.
So you see Keane going right on board with him.
He did do some very good sector times on his in-lap as well.
Do these cars have tyre warmers for when they come out of the pits? When they're in the pits?
I cannot remember. So you see,
I ask the questions and you don't know the answers. That's why we're a good team.
Yep, perfect. Match made in heaven. So
But Brian Walsh is in the pits as well. He's just got underway.
Keane did change his front tyres, and Topher's coming through the penultimate turn.
Could be very close between these two.
He was 4/10 faster in the middle sector, was David Keane. I believe he could sneak ahead here. It's going to be very close.
He's out of the pits now. He's onto the straight. Oh, very close between them, but he has got out in front. As Topher goes flying past.
Yes, just gets around him. So
he has actually closed the gap though. It was about 8/10.
He's ran wide. Topher did lock up, but he pulled it up. But yeah, he did close that gap down. But obviously, we did see on Topher's in-lap that he did make a mistake and drop that 2-second gap that he did have. So
it'll be very interesting now in the remaining 5 or 6 laps to see how this plays out between these two.
And we've got Gary
Without either.
We've got Gary Neville in front of him. He's yet to pit, but he's also, if he hadn't have had those early issues off the start line and obviously being stuck behind slower traffic, he's been running at a similar pace to both Topher and David Keane, so he'll be right there. So he'll be one to watch in that second race.
The gap between him and Topher and Keno does seem to be coming down quite rapidly, as you would expect.
It's about a second this lap.
David Keane all out of sort to Curvale, and there's a lap car behind him. There's Brian Walsh going back.
He's coming back into the pits for the second time in 2 laps.
He must have clattered the barrier, I'm thinking.
Looks at this stage as though Topher does have the edge, although a very small one. But Kino again, it looks like these cars do get quite a bit of an advantage in the toe,
Yeah,
which is quite surprising with the speed that they are running at.
Well, they are shaped like, I guess, mini bricks, but you think obviously, so it gets
very close there.
Yeah, David Keane, very good run.
Gary Neville just set an extremely good.
David Keane around the outside. Sorry to cut across you there. Foley hasn't got it done, but they were side by side as he was looking around the outside there.
It's too long a radius and too wide a corner to sort of get around the outside there, but Topher runs wide there. It's going to give Keane a good run, and he's going to get that position. Obviously, made a mistake through the S chicane, or the ski jump.
And Kino has been able to capitalise on that and come out ahead. As Topher gets into the slipstream, he'll be hoping to be able to stick on the back of them for a bit here.
Last time around, Keane made a slight mistake through here. This time, he's locked up.
He makes a slight mistake.
Gary Neville has spun on pit entry.
He has to just cut to him. And he can't get back into the pit, so he has to do another lap to pit.
He lost 12 seconds.
And yeah,
so we have behind them, these two are right up with each other once again.
So that's going to bring Big Dog back into play for P3. So the closest battle on track now, obviously, is going to be for the lead between Topher and David Keane.
David Keane this time appearing to have changed the correct number of tyres as well, so this win will be a little bit more legitimate.
Well, that would be close to a track cut there from David Keane. Certainly pushing the limits, and Gary Neville struggling a bit on those old tyres and probably has a bit of damage too.
Yeah, bold call for him to stay out as long as he did. You can see why he would have tried it, but obviously it hasn't paid off for them. Oh, Kino getting a lot of curb there.
Kino's also set the fastest first sector of the race in 18.3.
And he's very, very quick to that first sector.
And he's just stretching this gap to Topher out constantly. Now with the toe from Gary Neville as well, he's just going to keep on stretching it out. There's 1.5 seconds between Keane and Topher at the moment.
We did see, it's almost a reversal of the first stint. Keane almost locks up into the back of Gary Neville there. Sort of the reverse of the first stint where Topher broke away a little bit in the early stages, and now obviously
Gary Neville in the pits.
So can Big Dog jump him? He was about 35 seconds behind. Or live timing is out a bit. No, he's about 30 seconds behind actually. There's Gary Neville all over the grass there on pit entry. So fastest lap, David Keane 25.7. That would have been a pretty handy lap in qualifying. That would have put him P2, I think. So he's obviously found a bit of form as he gets all over the sausage curb at the first chicane at Estadio. And at the moment, Topher can't quite match him, although Topher himself said
he is closing the gap just slightly here so far on this lap.
Looks like it might be close between Neville and Big Dog coming out of the pits as well.
Neville just leaving the pits, and Big Dog has got...
Well, this is going to be close.
Big Dog getting out of it early. Obviously doesn't want to make a mistake. But going slowly...
Well, Big Dog's around, and we have Brendan Ross off as well. He's just looks like he may have just come close to hitting the wall at the very best. His tyres, obviously, after having a pit on lap 1, are not doing well at all. A lot going on at once there.
Big Dog was just too cautious there. Obviously, didn't want to send it up the inside and have a dive on Gary, but it probably cost him being too cautious and spinning him around there.
Looks like Big Dog's just got out of the way for Brian Walsh. Not 100% sure there. I got it at the very last second. As Walsh gets out of the way, looks like he just maybe Walsh had gone off and was rejoining badly in front of him.
Perhaps. So look at the lead. David Keane has got that
stretched back.
He's got that gap out to 1.8 seconds. He was 0.3 faster on that previous lap.
It's showing 2.0 seconds on my screen at the moment. They're going through corners, so it's obviously going to change up a little bit.
1.941 after the first sector split. So Topher, he was in the winning position, and obviously whatever happened towards,
All wide from Keane there.
whatever happened on his in lap has probably cost him this race. So obviously he's made a mistake somewhere and dropped 2 seconds. So
Now all Keane needs to do to win the race is just to take a nice cautious approach on this final lap and just keep it on the road, really.
that's it. Just keep doing what he's doing, and he should claim the win. And I think both Brendan Ross and Topher probably a little bit aggrieved with themselves, both having the pace to win this race and being, obviously, Ross made a mistake on the first lap, but obviously his qualifying effort was mega, and he did set the early pace despite having to repair the damage, but he'll be quite frustrated that he threw it away on lap 1.
Gary Neville you could count in that category as well. He's had a very good fight back and will still get a podium, but who knows what it could have been if he had been better off the line and maybe pitted earlier, or at least not had that issue coming into the pits.
Well, even though his best lap is 7/10 slower than Topher's, he's probably been, aside from his pit entries, been more consistent. So he's another one that could have, yeah, as you say,
He managed his tyres a lot better.
certainly did go a long way into the race. As we see, David Keane getting a bit of airtime here in the final lap. He's obviously quite keen to, no pun intended, to get this race over and done with and claim a win. So he's 2.8 in front of Topher now. I think Topher's sort of given up the ghost a little bit and just taking it easy. And then in third place, Gary Neville's 40 seconds back. So just one corner to go for David Keane, and he will claim the opening race win in Season 2. Does run wide, but David Keane will win Race 1 at Londrina and Race 1 of Season 2 of the Rookie Cup. So from 4th on the grid, he kept it clean, made less mistakes than those who started in front of him, and he claims Race 1. And we've got Topher, who will be a little bit annoyed with himself, but still P2 nonetheless. And then Gary Neville with 2 corners to go now. He's 16 seconds in front of the big dude, but 37 behind Topher. That spin cost him quite badly. And here it is, Gary Neville crosses the line. P3, he claims a podium in the 84 Mini. And aside from that spin from Big Dog towards the
Been
end,
a very good drive from him, aside from that.
yeah, he was very, very solid. He hadn't made a mistake that we'd seen prior to that, and he'd kept out of the trouble, looked nice and smooth, and well, it's been rewarded with P4. And then
I can confirm that this time David Keane has taken on the necessary number of tyres, as Big Dog's clearly not happy with himself after that spin and has decided to end it all.
yes, I don't think his pit crew will be too happy, but
He's another one of the fucking hell junior drivers, and we've got about 400 of these minis out the back.
And Brendan Ross, also not happy, is warped through the fence and ripped both his front wheels off. So he finished P5, so he did get a couple positions back. P6 is Brian Walsh, and Mike Coulston finished P7.
And on another note, I think this is the most professional Rookies Cup broadcast ever done. And we didn't even start it on time.
Certainly up there. I think that would have to be due to, I think, certainly not thanks to me, and I don't think it's thanks to you either, Scruff. I think it'd have to be Brendan Foley keeping us in line, I think. So, thanks, Brenton.
My best.
So, we'll be ticking over shortly to the qualifying session. I will have to pause the stream unless El Chief wants to log in as admin and tick it over for me.
I can certainly try.
That would be much appreciated. So we would not like the viewing audience to view admin passwords and the like. But yeah, hopefully this second race, hopefully it's a lot cleaner. Would like to see a battle between, obviously, we'd like to see Gary Neville, David Keane, Brendan Ross, and Topher all have clean getaways, and we'd like to see a battle between them because I think those four probably not too far apart in terms of pace.
I've just got word from myself that we'll be advancing the session very shortly. Just give these guys a quick break before they have to jump into another qualifying session.
Fair enough, and we'll just cycle through some picturesque views of this circuit. As you can see, the go-kart circuit in the back there.
As our winner has left the server.
Quick, let's change it to race so we can't get back in.
Just changing the admin password so you can't do that.
So, not a bad little circuit, this Londrina circuit. Obviously, a couple tricky corners, a couple straights, and even a jump there if you want to have a bit of fun. Could be a circuit we look at in the future for, obviously, next season in the Touring Car Championship. I'm sure that one will be, should we do race here in the touring cars, it will probably be a bit chaotic. Obviously, we've seen quite a few.
That's what you've been going for, isn't it? Just chaos.
Oh, I wanted some close racing, but we've had close racing and we've had chaos. So it's, especially when you're the only commentator, it is difficult to keep up with. So I'm glad you guys are here with me tonight. So,
Foley, I think we might take the rest of the night off.
I think that's our cue.
well, thanks for joining us, and I wish you the worst of luck in the touring cars next Monday.
I'll enjoy my 250 kilo penalty.
Who says you're allowed in?
And that admin password will be changed too. About 15 seconds till we have the server advanced. As David Keane's internet seems to have died, and he'll be working furiously, I'm sure, to get that issue sorted. As we all know about being disconnected for reasons out of our control.
Well, at least it happened to him after the race. Unfortunately, we've had quite a few people where it's happened in the middle of a race, or even towards the end of a race while they've been in promising positions. So,
as we go through the qualifying right now. And I become distracted immediately afterwards.
So as we have a look at these passionate fans, obviously there is a lot of fans in the pit lane. I do not know why, but obviously they've stormed the track and they're interrupting the teams at work. But qualifying is underway. Brendan Ross will be the first one out.
Followed straight away by Topher.
He's very, very close to that line. Obviously, in real life, you'd probably get disqualified for that, but it being AMS, because he has crossed the line, I believe.
On live races, it's showing him as crossed the line, yeah.
He's lucky it's a sim, because in real life that would be, well, he'd be starting from the back of the grid.
Well, with AMS, you're probably more likely to get disqualified if you don't cross the line.
I think with AMS, your first time lap doesn't count. Or you have to go round again or something like that.
I'll just wait in the pits like a good boy.
Well, in practice, I've gone straight out when it's been red straight away, and it's my first time lap is counted. So perhaps it's different for qualifying. I don't know. I always wait for a minute or two for everybody to go through their laps before I go out. So can't say I've tested it. So
Sounds like Foley's the biggest rebel amongst us tonight.
I have made that mistake before.
Inverted commas on mistake.
So right on board Brendan Ross for the first lap of qualifying 2. So he runs wide there at Curval, and that would have been a track cut with that kind of exit. So he'll be hoping to match his qualifying 1 efforts. He just wants to clean up his, obviously what happens in the race. So here we go, he'll be up to 5th gear, up into turn 1. These cars do have 6 gears, but they're not fast enough around this circuit to pull 6th. Makes it about 35, and that's too late, and he's off, not into the boonies, he's off into the alternate layout. And, well, we'll go back and ride with Topher, who's also had a little bit of a trip across the grass there. As we see Mike Coulston in the background get it all kinds of sideways and have a little spin. Will anybody get this first lap right? I think we'll ride with, I think, Big Dog there. We'll ride on board with Big Dog. Let's see.
I'm sorry, who are we riding on board with?
The Big Dude!
That's more like it.
Those issues would most likely be because the server's been reset and they may have forgotten that the grip also gets reset.
Well, but there still looks to be quite a bit of grip out there, so judging by all the tyre marks on the circuit, so I still think the track is fairly well gripped up, just people trying to push too hard, I think. This Big Dog's had a nice clean start to his lap so far.
Brendan Ross making the same mistake that he made in race 1 twice on his next lap.
Well, consistency is key in racing.
You want consistent good, not consistent I've put it into the fence though.
At least he's giving it 110%.
That's true, he's having a crack, and that's all you can ask for. There's a bit of lag there on my part. But Big Dog, fastest in the first sector. Brendan Ross is fastest in the second sector, but he did go off. So obviously his lap time will be skewed quite a bit. So Big Dog, nice, neat and tidy, or Big Dog, I should say.
Thank you.
Taking a bit easy for the final turn there, but I think he's more about consistency than out and out speed.
Because we've had a Michael join the game, who I can only assume isn't meant to be there.
Well, he wasn't present for the driver's briefing, and we've not heard anything on Discord, so I do believe he will probably be end off in the boonies somewhere. So Big Dog, despite getting it all kinds of locked up there, is up on his own time, set a 27.2, so not a bad lap time there on the Big Dog. The Big Dog!
Big Dog! I have nothing else to add.
Don't need to add anything else.
Well, as we said earlier, let's talk to you later then.
We'll see you Thursday. So,
What the hell's going on Thursday? Oh shit, V8s.
So Brian Walsh is the second driver to set times. He's currently obviously P2. He was back in the pits, but he's just left. Coulston
Obviously had big issues there. Coulson being 18 seconds down on Big Dog.
We did see him have massive off at turn 1, as did Glenn Miles just then.
Brendan Ross has just set fastest time in sector 1, being an 18.5.
But he's got traffic, I believe Glenn Miles in front of him.
We've had... Sorry, I was looking at the stream and then realised that you probably already talked about it.
So it's in front of him and it seems to have gotten past okay. Possibly gained a toe.
He might have made a mistake in the middle sector because it says he's down 10 seconds on the leader and he's run wide anyway, so... Well, perhaps timing is out, I'm too sure.
Live Races doesn't have him as a time for sector 2, so he could have got a track cut.
I'm going to have to guess it would be the old ski jump. Although he would have said a 1 minute 27, but obviously that time didn't count. Let's see what he does this time around. See, headlights ablaze. Bit of curve, bit of bounce. 18.7 first sector, so he's up on the big do. But obviously, compared to the times
Both Gary Neville and Topher have done an 18.7 on the first sector as well this lap.
Now, these guys are from 4th place down do appear to be struggling to get a lap in, and I am going to remove Michael from the server now.
Adios, Michael, and obviously I think Brendan Ross there got himself a track cut by running wide at the ski jump, as Gary Neville is up in sector 2.
Nice if it would allow me to remove him from the server.
You may have to type in his name manually in the chat and do it. As we see Topher go P1 on 27.0 as we ride on board Gary Neville as he completes his lap. What will Gary's lap time be? 27.2. So he just sneaks in front of Big Doo, but is pretty much 2/10 behind Topher at the moment. And Brendan Ross has gone faster, so obviously after all that he didn't get a track cut, despite the fact he did run very wide at ski jump and turned his headlights off. He's attacked the first chicane there very hard there, and he's up again in sector 1 with 18.617. And Gary Neville also set a quick first sector, 18.6. Topher set a purple middle sector with a 31.3. And that'll be a track cut for Ross. And he's very wide there at the ski jump. So we'll ride on. Well, we'll watch Topher and see if he can carry that middle sector through to the rest of his lap, and see if he can jump ahead. So Topher crosses the line. Looks a good lap. It is a good lap. A 25.3. That is up there.
It's his fastest lap of the night, I believe.
Is it?
I'd like to hear what Mike Scaife has to say on that lap.
I believe he was at some point right out sideways.
It's the fastest corner in not Australia.
In Brazil, mate.
Thank you.
One of the best operators we have in Automobilista Australia.
Look, where the first race went well, except for not making it to the stream in time.
So that is a very, very impressive lap time. Obviously, still about 9/10 off what Reece Gardner managed, but Reece Gardner is obviously a couple notches above the drivers in this series. Would probably be a Pro A driver, I'd have to assume.
Brendan Ross just set a pretty quick sector 1 time, but he seemed to have made a mistake and given it up and gone back to the pits.
Both he and
So
Neville.
that's him done.
Both he and Neville in the pit, so Topher looks to have claimed pole position. Hasn't had a good middle sector, but he's kept it going. Obviously looking to get another lap in, but he probably doesn't need it. And he's gone back to the pits. So first four back in the pits. Gary Neville, Brian Walsh back in the pits. So Coulston, I believe, is the only one still out on track at the moment. This will be his last lap, but I believe he's got a.
I think he's got a cut.
Yeah, he's got a track cut, and he's pulling back into the pits. So that will see off qualifying. We've got see Topher set a very impressive lap of 1 minute 25.398.
9/10 up on Brendan Ross, who was the pace setter in the first qualifying session. The two have really just swapped places.
And they sort of swapped gaps as well, swapped lap times. It was about 1.2, I believe, or 1 second around that mark in qualifying 1, with Ross setting a very good 1 minute 25, and Topher being in the 26s, and this time it's the other way around. But I've got to say, Big Dog again, solid effort in P4 there with 27.2. With he and Gary Neville very close together, only 6/1000th of a second separating the two.
Very impressed with how quickly Big Dog is coming along. As I'm not sure how recently before he started with the group, but he didn't even have a PC, and now he's fighting out close to the top three in this, and he's been doing very well in the other series he's done as well.
Well, especially last week in the touring car series, he had a fantastic run in this second race. He just he kept it nice and clean, and he almost, I believe, he almost snagged the podium or a top four, but got pipped towards the end of the race. But throughout the entire race, he looked as clean as anybody out there on the circuit. And obviously, when he first started, he was a little bit erratic, but he has certainly come on leaps and bounds the last couple, even the couple weeks. Even he's improved massively.
Well, he did have the odds against him for his first race. I believe that was the V8s at Hidden Valley. So definitely not the best place or cars to be starting out with.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. That's if there's a deep end, I believe that's as deep. That's one of the deepest ends you can go to. It being in a supercar and at a circuit like Hidden Valley. I suppose it could have been Winton. That probably would have been worse, but Hidden Valley is certainly up there as one of the worst tracks with a supercar you could drive as your first race. So we do have a 10-minute warm-up, but I believe it will be ticked over 5 minutes early. Will it, Chief?
Could be.
David Keane's still yet to join back on the server.
I may be slightly waiting to see how long he's going to take.
He'll be quite disappointed, obviously winning race 1 and missing qualifying for race 2. He's going to have to fight his way back through the field.
I'm just giving him the hurry up now.
So, obviously, for those that have obviously new to Automobilista Australia or just started watching, obviously we run a variety of series. The Rookie Cup here being for obviously those new to sim racing. We have had, obviously in Season 1, we did have people that were new to the series come along and race, but that did throw some of the results in the championship out, as you did have guys that did have higher levels of experience from obviously other racing sims about. This season probably not going to be as tolerant, especially if drivers are so quick. So we do apologise, Reece Gardner, but I don't think it would be the greatest idea to have a high-level runner out there against these guys who are just trying to obviously learn their craft a bit. And obviously, the Rookie Cup also gives these guys a bit of a chance to shine and get a podium and possible race win as well. And then, well, we do have other Monday night series. We do have well, it is with the Petrobras de Marquez cars, the stock content touring cars in the game, racing around other stock content circuits. That's open to everybody, although it is mainly encouraged for Pro-Am, rookies, Pro B drivers to have a bit of their own shine without Pro A runners, but Pro A runners are eligible to race, but they do receive significant weight penalties, as Mr. Foley will find out on next Monday. And we also have on Thursday nights, we have 3 series, although the main series being the Supercars Championship, which returns this week from Eastern Creek or Sydney Motorsport Park. We won't be running at night time due to frame issues, which is a bit of a shame, but understandable. We want as many people to be able to run the game as smoothly as possible. And also run on the Thursdays, we have the Super Series, which is run in the models are stock Razor content with the Mitsubishi RS and the Mitsubishi R's, but they have had some minor tweaks under the bonnet done to them. Obviously, the RS getting a significant power boost.
The 400 horsepower Lancer RS. As we have had David Keane get back into the game just in the nick of time with just over a minute till we advance to the race.
And we obviously saw Brendan Ross there have a trip into the barrier. But yeah, obviously, you guys had obviously round one was last weekend. How did you guys find those cars?
Personally, with our test day at the Red Bull Ring, I could not drive them, but once we were able to change the brake bias, it helped me a lot. I was far happier with the cars at Sandown.
Yeah, in race one at Sandown, I struggled quite a bit to get my head around them. Obviously, we all know I'm a bit more suited to the lightweight, high downforce cars, excluding the F197 as it turns out. But it got the hang of it early on in the second race, and immediately, as soon as I thought, hey, I might actually be on for a good result, I got disconnected and threw my headphones.
Well, I've yet to throw my headphones due to disconnects, but if it happens again, it might happen. But obviously, Foley, you seem to have a very good run. I believe you qualified on the front row, and I didn't see the race results, but you did seem to be in a good position in both races.
Yeah, I ended up second and then third in the second race.
You had a fantastic race with Hobson too. That was great to watch from the sidelines.
It was great from the driver's seat as well.
So we have advanced the session as the cars begin to take to the grid. We've got another 30 seconds until the warm-up lap begins.
So
I think we should give the new boy the honour of going through the grid for us, Lewis.
alright, well, I'll just we'll let the formation lap get underway, and yes, we'll have new boy introduce all the introduce the grid for us and get us going.
If we had 30, it would be quite fun to see how quickly he tries to get through it.
Thankfully, we've just got a field of 8 tonight, which is unfortunate at the same time, though.
We need to find a smaller track and hope for a bigger grid, and then we can just throw you straight into the deep end. But, obviously, we're underway now, so we'll hand it off to you.
Also, we have Topher in pole position with an outstanding qualifying, followed by Brendan Ross, so swapped positions from the first race. In third, we then have Gary Neville. Hopefully his consistency from the first race pays off and he can have a good result in race 2. Followed by Big Dog in fourth position. Fifth, we have Brian Walsh, followed by Glenn Miles. And then in seventh, Mike Coulston, who I didn't think got a decent, well, to his probably standards, a decent lap in qualifying, one that he'd be happy with. And then in eighth, who just made it back into the server in time, we have David Keane. So it'll be exciting to watch him make it through the field.
Just noticed as I was looking through the grid with you guys then, we have a few guys that have left the same rear tyres on that they were using in qualifying. Obviously the rears aren't worn anywhere near as much in this series as they are in others, but an interesting decision not to go with fresh tyres all around.
Well, I don't know if it'd be by design, because you do want some kind of rear grip, especially for the Curvao. And
yeah, with the nature that these cars can lose
Topher, sorry to interrupt. Topher almost threw it into the barrier on the formation lap there, but he's kept it going.
And he's not one of the ones that forgot to change their rear tyres. As we have into the barrier.
It's Big
Brian, not Brian Walsh.
It's Big
Not
Dude.
Big
He's
Dog.
put it into the fence.
He's still going to try and get to the grid, which is admirable. He's missing an entire front end. Anyone who's watched Top Gear will remember when they went to India and they winched the front off Richard Hammond's Mini. He's tried to replicate that, and obviously Big Dog thinks he's Little Hamster, as he's mimicking his hero.
Unfortunately, probably should have gone back to the pits there and started from the pit lane, because that car...
interesting way to get your CPS out of the way.
Does have a little bit of steering damage from the onboard as well.
If he had have gone into the pits and got new tyres, would that be counted as his CPS, given it happened before the race technically started?
No, you'd have to have completed the start.
That would be a hell of a
And
strategy.
I believe Brian Walsh is out of position. There we go. It's warped him back into position.
Lights are going. We are underway. Good start from Topher there.
Ross has got a
And
better
Brendan Ross as well.
Alongside.
Now, will Big Dog, will he make turn 1 with that?
David
front
Keen's
circle?
already passed 3 cars.
So into
David
turn
Keane
1.
replicating his hero's race starts. His hero being Matt Williams.
Brian Walsh running wide.
We've got Neville and Keane side by side, but Keane's already got the... Keane is already up to
to
P3.
third.
He's blitzed it off the start. And, well, he'll be putting Ross under pressure, I'd assume, pretty quickly. Although he's putting pressure on Topher at the start now, as we see him go through the ski jump. Walsh.
Sorry, Lewis, you go.
Oh, Walsh got a bit of air time.
The two guys at the front, Topher and Ross, we saw these guys in Season 1 fighting it out a lot in the Lancers, and clearly they enjoyed it, given they've tried to keep it going on here.
Topher locks up a little bit, gets on the grass. but
Oh,
he's kept
very
it
close
going.
moment.
Brendan Ross in the marbles.
And that's given David Keane a great run. He's going to take P2 now, surely. Yes, he does. So
Ross.
David Keane has come from last and is now second.
Ross looked like he was definitely just caught off a bit by Topher's mistake there, and had to take avoiding action, and did quite well in the end to not hit Topher. Obviously won't be happy dropping back down a third, but the gap's still not too bad between them. He's only about a second behind David Keane, and still a long way to go in this race. We've only completed the 1 lap. As Keane is looking to get through for first already, he's had to pull up there.
Oh, he's made a mistake.
Keno.
Made a mistake.
We got Big Dog in the pits, and we've had Gary Neville go round once again.
Neville's gone round.
He's English and should be enjoying driving these German minis. I started saying it, thought, oh no, they're not even English anymore. Big Dog with a new bumper sitting in the pits, getting his stop out of the way early.
So after that mistake by Keane, well, both Keane and Ross probably get a track cut for that. And obviously that's given Topher a handy 2.2 second gap, and Ross now looking to harry the back of Keane's Mini.
We did see in the first race though a gap of about 2 to 2.5 seconds between Topher and Keane, and we know how that went. But Keane running wide again as Ross completely sideways and off the track there.
Ross got it on the grass and on the second part there, and it span him around, but he's smart enough to just gun it with these front wheel drive cars, and it kept him straight. If anything,
been his struggle spot all night, corner.
Walsh and Coulston very close as Walsh makes a mistake letting Coulston through.
If anything,
Neville and Miles are close as well.
If anything, that mistake from Ross actually gained him a bit of time. As Coulston runs wide, it's going to give Walsh a decent run in the first chicane.
We did see this last race that as soon as Topher had a bit of a gap, he did just put in some good laps and continued it.
He is locking again. He's locking a wheel in the braking zone to just about every corner though, which is something to be wary of at the very least.
These cars do have built-in ABS, so I don't think it's so much him locking. I think it's more the unweighted tyre regaining, well, touching the surface of the track, and that's just producing smoke from the tyre. So
this gap is already coming down from Keno to Topher. They're now 1.5 seconds just over between them.
They do have Big Dog just in front of him, who's come out of the pits after a lengthy pit stop.
Who's in front of him?
Big Dog!
That's my boy.
So the gap is now 1.599 seconds between Keane and Topher. And Ross, if anything, he's gained a little bit in this on this lap so far.
So Big Dog has gone off out of a corner. I haven't been able to tell which one. Looks like the last corner. He's hit the wall and he's retired from the race.
Well, we talked him up after, obviously, in the warm-up session, as Keane sets a 25.8. It's a very good lap time.
That's on pace with his time in the first race as well.
Topher himself set a decent lap time and even set a purple final sector. He set a 26.1, but obviously Keane just that little bit faster. And Keane right is under a second now, that gap. Although I believe, yes, David Keane did get curb strike going through the first chicane there. Well,
Could already be his second curb strike, which means another 2, and that'll be a drive-through penalty.
he
You obviously get 3, and then after that you go through the pits.
He did get one, or he would have got one for, I believe, on the lap 2 for running wide at the ski jump.
Gap from first to third, just 1.5 seconds between the three of them.
And then even then, the gap from 4th to 6th is only 2.6 seconds as well. So they've got a couple battles on track.
It never looks to be all over the back of Brian Walsh here. I'm just going to cut through the field and have a quick look. He's just going through now on the straight. Good, clean move. Obviously going a straight line. If you hit them, you're just not cut out for driving.
See, Walshy is playing it safe. Just wants to, obviously knows Gary's a bit faster and probably didn't want to fight him all that much. If anything, probably wanted to follow him a little bit and hopefully get on the back of Coulston. As Ross sets a 25.5. And Keane now right behind Topher.
Three tenths between them.
Topher
just
runs
over
wide. Topher runs wide the first chicane, but he wouldn't have got a track cut. He did pull it back.
He did lose 2/10.
Did lose time though, and now they're all of them are within a second.
Yeah, under a quarter of a second. 3/4 of a second. Sorry.
Topher does seem to have got a good run out of that corner onto the straight.
We did see though, Keane.
The curve there, Keane.
Yeah, he has been using a lot through there, and normally it's not impeded him too much, but it does look as though Ross may have a run on him here.
Ross got really sticking in the slipstream there, which is a bit silly as we've seen. It gives quite a bit of an advantage. Ross backing out of it a little bit there. Smoke coming from both Topher and Keane.
The gap again comes back down to under 3/4 of a second between Topher and Keane.
There's nothing between these three at the moment. Nothing.
Keane looks to be defending a
Glenn
little bit.
Miles in the fence at the middle of the second sector.
Yeah,
lost a wheel.
That front end is gone. It is gone. There's no front right tyre, wheel, or suspension, and yeah, that front end is gone. He's still trying to get out of it. You can hear the engine going, but that thing is #wrecked.
I might have missed what has happened, but Mike Coulston's gone from 4th to 6th
He's
in the
entered
pit.
the pits. Yeah, he's entered the pit. So
He had gone back to 6th before he entered the pits though as well. So it could have been a mistake.
I think
Topher's
Miles
got the lead. Topher has been overtaken by David Keane.
missed that completely.
Both of them having
still
curb strikes.
I think Miles is more likely to lose his engine than actually make it back to the pits here with the way that thing's revving at the minute. And he's given up. He's realised it's not coming.
Walshy has, I don't even know what he's done there. He's come across the infield of turn, I think it is 3, and DNF'd.
As Brendan Ross has lost a little bit of time to Topher, he's just over a second behind him.
He's made, yeah, it's obviously 20.2 in the first sector, but we saw curb strikes for both Keane and Topher in that first sector. So have a look at what has Walshy done. So in the first corner, he's made a mistake and just gone straight to the infield and parked it. So now it looks like Keane's getting away a little bit, but he's only 1 or 2 curb strikes away from getting a penalty. So he won't want to run wide anywhere.
Being in the lead, you would hope he'd start to be a little bit more careful about that. No longer been trying to chase down the guys ahead. Just needs to sort of settle into a nice rhythm as he just runs a little bit wide there.
So having a look at the replay, Ross, Keane and Topher all ran wide at the first chicane, but Keane, obviously, he only ran a little bit wide and gunned it and then overtook Topher there. So that might come under investigation later in the race because he did gain an advantage by going off the track. Even though Topher did go off the track as well, Keane didn't slow down and then overtook him. So it might need to be spoken to after the race, but obviously right now he's got a 1.5 second lead. as Topher makes another mistake, and that's Brendan Ross in front of him. Although it looks like Brendan Ross is looking to pit. Indeed, he does.
Keno now with a more than 2.5 second gap to Topher, who will inherit second place once he gets past Ross. He does 3.2 seconds on my
Brendan Ross
screen.
very aggressive on pit entry. Didn't make a mistake though, so it could help him later on.
See, using all the pit lane and more there. And so on that last lap, Topher 27.9. Obviously, a couple of mistakes there, and again another mistake into the first chicane. He's looking to pit this lap, so perhaps he's worn out those front tyres and just struggling a bit.
Just having a look at Gary Neville now, we saw him run very late into the race before pitting in race 1, as I have again heard something hit something. But it'll be interesting to see if he does adjust that strategy and come in early this time, as we obviously saw him having major issues the first time he attempted to pit it in race 1.
As we see, yeah, it looks like David Keane and Topher both looking to pit this lap, and it doesn't look like Gary's pitting this lap either, so he's looking to go long again, while those in front of him are going to be pitting.
If they aren't given warm tyres when they come in, it might be a good strategy, but otherwise you really should be looking to pit in the next couple of laps.
That said, though, I think that obviously the gap in front of him, for to those guys, is probably too big to sort of make up a chunk of time anyway. So perhaps he's just running just to have some better tyres at the end and just.
I had forgotten that Ross had already pitted behind him, and that spot will obviously be swapped back once Neville does come into the pits.
So he'll be hoping Ross to make up a bit of time. Keane, as Keane gets away in the pits, smoking up those front tyres.
On his outlap, he was 0.2 faster in the middle sector.
Brandon Ross.
Yep.
So Neville takes the lead, and Ross is crossing the start. Ross is going to take the lead. He's going to get there. I think he's going to have the momentum. Flashes the light.
Oh, very close between these two.
Ross gets it. He gets the position and pulls it up for the first chicane. So, Keane all kinds of sideways and holds onto it.
Now, if Ross can just keep the car in a straight line, he will more than likely be able to stretch this gap right out, because he has had the pace all night.
And Topher he's about 10 seconds behind these guys, so he must have changed all tyres. Was he one of the drivers at the start that forgot to change their rear tyres?
No, Topher was on fresh tyres all round, but he either forgot to just set it to only change 2 tyres, or he may have picked up a small amount of damage somewhere that we haven't seen, and has forgot to turn that off. As Brendan Ross, all kinds of sideways there, very close to going around, but he's held it together nicely.
Gary Neville in the pits as well.
Gary Neville
hit the wall on
running
entry.
along the wall there. It is a tricky pit lane.
Ross looks to be struggling just a little bit here. He's
Sorry.
got the car sideways and then run wide and a couple of corners later.
If Neville's forgotten to turn off damage as well, that will cost him a fair amount of time grazing the wall.
He wouldn't have had time, really, much time anyway, to change it before he did enter his pit box, so he might just have to wear that one, I think.
If he hasn't registered as damage, so it could be interesting between him and Topher, but as I say,
He's
that
not.
Topher has gone
Keane
through.
is
Ross is around! Ross is around!
Oh dear, so looks like David Keane is going to inherit the lead once again. And he's going to have a comfortable gap to Brendan Ross and Topher.
Once again, David Keane just doing what you need to do and keep the car pointing in the right direction and go around it in the best time you can, and you will get results.
Technically, he is a Pro B runner, so this might be his only round in the series, pending numbers, of course. But Ross and Topher, pace-wise, have kept him honest, but they've just made too many mistakes between them.
Yeah, for the most part, he has had the the pace to run with or near these guys, but really it does look more like the other guys just haven't wanted to win a race.
Both of them said obviously impressive qualifying times in race 1 and 2, and they just can't just keep it on the road in the race to sort of capitalise on that.
Well, Keane obviously missing qualifying for this race, but I believe he was 5th or 6th on the grid for race 1, so the one lap pace certainly hasn't been there for him, but during the races he has looked quite strong, and things have fallen his way.
That said,
Oh, he's
all kinds of sideways again. As I think he wants to get another track cut the way he's driving there. He's taking it easy, but these cars, you've got to sort of push them a little bit, otherwise they do get sideways on you very easily.
Oh, Topher would have just been pushing very close to a track cut there. May have just had enough wheel left over the line, but I'd be questioning how much he's got left to actually, how much he can afford to actually cut corners now, because he'd be very close to getting a curb strike and having to go through the pits.
He's got Neville 17 seconds behind him and Coulston 21 behind him, so you don't want to get a drive through at this stage of the race. And the gap to the lead has come down. Obviously, Brendan Ross setting a very good middle sector, and Topher even quicker in the middle sector, but Topher's first sector not quite as good, but still, both of them faster than David Keane on this lap. He seems to be taking it easy, I think, with only 3 laps to go now.
After the spin.
Oh, Ross penalty.
Drive through.
He's extended on the final turn. They're pushing too hard, and that is going to drop him probably behind. That's going to drop him to 5th just about. It's a long, tricky pit lane.
Podium there for Gary Neville, as long as he can get through the rest of the race. Mistake 3, it would seem. It might be close towards the end, although we only have 3 laps after this one.
So we know David Keane is very close to himself getting a drive through, so he'll be taking it nice and easy. He's got looking at the gap, about 10 seconds to Topher, I believe.
Yeah, Topher also would only have one or two more curb strikes in his pocket as well before he'll have to go through as well. So we might wind up in a situation where the 3 guys who really should be on the podium will go through the pits.
Or one of them will end up. If they all got penalties, only one of them would make it on there. But obviously Neville and Coulston would find their ways in front of him. With that said, 37 seconds to Coulston or something like that for Keane, he might get in front of him.
Now, I'm not sure the transit time for a drive-through, but it would be quite interesting if they got, say, one on this lap. It would be quite interesting by the end of the race to see where they all wind up.
Topher very quick. Gary Neville himself setting personal bests.
Brendan Ross going around again before he serves his penalty.
He's going as far as he can. He's got the gap down to 5.2 seconds, so he wants to put a bit of pressure on Keane before he obviously has to serve it. And Topher set his personal best. He set a 25.6. So all the front 3 have set 1 minute 25 lap times.
25.6 is only
Topher's certainly
800ths slower than the best lap. Sorry to cut you off.
That's alright. Well, Topher there, he cut the first chicane there. Bit of air time. So
it's got to only be one cut left for Topher now.
Surely he's down to 1
Oh, he's got very bold there.
And there it is.
And there it is.
He's got 2 strikes in 1 lap, and that's gifted David Keane victory.
I wouldn't
possibly
say that
second place to Gary Neville.
That has gifted David Keane victory. I'll say it again.
He said it again. This is pushing it now. What did fucking our racing ever do to you?
It's all over. David Keane has this in the bag now.
Oh god, I can't listen to this.
All he has to do, is just circulate, and
he's got to ease it off now.
And he should have it in the bag now. So Ross is in. Topher is in. Now, how far back?
We go and have a look at Gary Neville, I think.
It'll be pretty close, I think. About 20 seconds.
It's just gone past the pit entry now. Has Gary Neville?
No, Neville's not going to be close enough. So both of them are going to come out in front of him. So
that should mean, regardless of whether or not David Keane does get another curb strike, he should be able to win as long as he doesn't happen to rotate in the process.
oh, Brendan Ross double cuts the chicane, the first chicane there, and Topher is going to gain quite a bit of time on him there. So
And
Ross,
these guys now, sorry to cut you off, they have to be incredibly careful not to get another track cut, because every single one now will be a drive-through.
well, I believe it might have got reset, because that would have been 2 curb strikes there for Ross for cutting that chicane. He would have got one for the initial part of it and then the second part. So, and he hasn't got one, so it must have reset and he's got a full set back, but he's used a couple of them up. So David Keane's coming around the final corner to start the final lap.
24 seconds between Ross and Keane.
So can Topher now, can he put a bit of pressure on Ross and claim back P2? Because it's almost like that neither of these guys obviously want to finish on the podium with some of the mistakes they've been making, but obviously they've had quite a bit of pace advantage over Gary Neville and Coulston behind them. So they've got away with it a little bit.
These two, just for season 1 and now already in this one, I mean, the first race, obviously there was a few things that wound up separating them on track, but as far as times go, it does look like they're going to continue the season 1 battle as Brendan Ross takes a lot of that sausage curve and gets up on 2 wheels once again.
Certainly playing a risky game is Brendan Ross. So the gap is 1.3 between Topher and Ross. It's half a lap to go.
Does look like Keane has eased off a bit, that gap now down to 22 seconds.
That would have been close to a curb strike for Topher there at the exit of the ski jump. So go ahead, David Keane coming up to the final corner. He's going to take both races. And well, he started last after issues in practice after race 2. And he stormed all the way up to P2 by the end of the first lap. And he's come through to win both races for Season 2 of the Rookie Cup. So this may be his only...
I watched that thing happen.
As Brendan Ross comes through to claim P2 and Topher will claim P3. As there's a massive accident as both Topher and Ross smash into David Keane as he's doing his reverse doughies. And Gary Neville finishes P4 and does a spin out.
Keane has kept going. He's just going to have the rest of the night here.
Coulston has
He's rolled it.
He's rolled it and he's going down the straight on his roof. That is definite style points for Coulston for that.
I think we may have to put a disclaimer on this video now. The MTV and the producers must insist. There's no one attempt to recreate or reenact.
Oh, it's Topher. Look at his car. Is well, hashtag wrecked. So to go through the results once again, obviously we have got winner from both races, David Keane. This maybe his only appearance in the series, obviously a bit strong here. But obviously winner of both races, did a fantastic job in the second race to start last and be second by P2. That's up there. I reckon that even surpasses Senna's lap at Donington in the wet back in 93 of Lap of the Gods. Brendan Ross will be annoyed after his first race, but still managed to get on the podium for race 2. Again, he had the pace.
Keane is still going here. Sorry,
he's the only one still going.
It's just, that car is destroyed.
He's just off-roading it now.
He's drifting it at the moment. I don't think he's meaning to. It's just that damage. It's crabbing.
Yeah, that is mega crab. Obviously,
there he goes.
Topher, he finished in P3. and he was followed by Gary Neville in P4, and Mike Coulston was the last of the finishers in the second race, with Brian Walsh, Glenn Miles, and Big Doo being the 3 retirements. So obviously Keane winning both races, did them in quite easily in the end. But that said, I think Topher and Ross will find themselves quite annoyed with themselves, with both having the pace to win both races, but both making critical mistakes which cost them.
It'll be interesting to see what the decision is regarding David Keane, because he did somewhat inherit both of those wins.
He did, but at the same time, he did show some very, very quick speed as well. So it's certainly one to be had by the admins following this one. Obviously, there is a 2-week gap between this round and the second round of the Rookie Cup. So obviously, there will be some discussions there as to what happens for him. Not been joined by anybody yet, but obviously, once again, some interesting racing, some big crashes obviously at the end. And for those watching, there are style points on offer for both the Monday night series, so the Touring Car Championship and the Rookie Cup. Should an accident be caught on broadcast, and the bigger they are, the more points on offer. So I think so far, obviously, Mike Coulston's at the end there, scraping on his roof for a good part of 150 metres. I think that's currently leading the standings. If we did have it last season, it would have been, I think Luke ended up in the stands at Borough. So the standard set so far by Mike Coulson on his roof. But we've been joined by David Keane, race winner of both races. David, obviously you didn't have as much practice as the other guys, but you come in, you didn't qualify too well in race 1, but you certainly found your groove, and well, you took both races in the end pretty comfortably.
Yeah, no, it was a good race and good clean race by all. I love the little minis to run around in. They're just really easy to drive, and if you have a little bit of an accident with the back end, you soon plant it and you can get out of it quite easy.
And well, obviously starting at the back for the second race because of those issues you had in practice, and you missed qualifying. That start, you started last and were P2 by the end of the first lap.
Oh, it's just, I think because I hadn't had any practice starting with the first race, it was kind of a bit of an eye opener to plan it a little bit and then get off real quick, and it just grips and off it goes.
Your competitors will appreciate the advice there.
That's fine. I'll give it out.
That's Hobson-esque smugness there.
All right. Well, we've also been joined. Oh, once again, well done to David. Obviously, winner both races. You were very consistent in both of them. Didn't seem to make any mistakes really. So very, very clean, very consistent, and that's 2 race wins. Congratulations. And
Thank you.
We've also been joined by Topher. Bit of a up and down sort of race weekend. Obviously, got a fantastic lap in the second qualifying session, but again, just that little bit of consistency wasn't quite there, and it sort of cost you 2 races there.
Yeah, and qualifying felt good. These cars, once you lighten that fuel load and you got fresh tyres, they're just an absolute joy to drive. So I don't know how I put that second qualifying lap together, but it felt really nice. But yeah, the consistency in the race isn't so good. And someone like David Keane, he's quick and he's consistent. You can't really afford to make mistakes, and I keep on doing that. And then in the second race, I also made mistakes in terms of the pits, and then had to drive through as well. I actually damaged myself on the way into the pits and didn't have time to turn off repair damage, and that cost me an extra 25 seconds of sitting still in the pits. So given that I finished, I think, about 25 seconds behind first place, even after the drive-through, I feel like I've kind of let myself down with that one.
Well, we did wonder what happened, because you were right behind Ross, I believe, at the time, and you both entered the pits, and he had a significant gap after the pit stop. So obviously clipping the barrier there it was a tricky little entry to the pit lane. Obviously cost you in race 2, and then in race 1 you led for a significant portion. But what happened towards on your in lap, you did have a 2-second gap, and then it seemed to just dissipate. We just missed it.
Yeah, I had very little gap by the time I actually went into the pits. That was just one or two missed apexes, and there's a couple of corners on this track where if you miss the apex on the way onto the 2 long straights, then you're really going to suffer and give away 3 or 4 tenths just down that one straight. And I did that twice in the same lap, and I think it was Kino who was behind me also had a good lap, and then I made a rookie mistake appropriate for the Cup. I thought I'd been racing Brendan Ross the whole time. So when I came out and I found myself a lap later battling David Keane, in my head, I just immediately went, oh, well, he hasn't stopped yet. So I didn't really put up a fight as he wanted to try and sneak through underneath me. I thought, well, he's on a different strategy. He's racing a different race. He'll pit. He'll end up 30 seconds behind me. And of course, that was my stupidity. It had been David Keane that I'd been fighting the whole time. And he was on very much the same strategy as me, pitted 1 lap after me and went on to win the race. And the whole time, literally up until the last lap, I was sitting there thinking, when's this guy going to pit? How long can he make these tyres last for? So just some real rookie sort of stuff. And it's annoying. I do have flashes of pace, but then I can kind of find ways to ruin my own race. And I guess that's the point, is trying to find that consistency.
Well, we saw it last season. You multiple times you were so close to taking that first win, and again, obviously in the first race you looked very close, and just wasn't quite there. But hopefully for round 2 you'll be able to find that consistency. But still, a couple of good solid results to start the season.
First win will taste very, very sweet.
I'm sure it will. So obviously, once again, sort of commiserations, but also congratulations on a mixed weekend. And we've also been joined by pole position getter in race 1, Brendan Ross, and second place in race 2. So Brendan, obviously a fantastic lap in qualifying 1, but the first lap, it all come unstuck in race 1 there.
Yeah, just a very silly little error. I think I ran wide down the two lefties, so just caught me out, ran in the wall and broken damage. I think I got a puncher, which I had to come in for, so just a silly little error that cost me there.
Yeah, isn't the easiest corner you'll come across this season, that's for sure. We did see a few mistakes in there, and in the first race it did seem to be a corner that did catch you out a couple times. Yeah,
because I crashed out second time there, but I didn't want to come into the pits again, so I had massive steering damage, so just had to take that race easy.
Yes, and then obviously the second race it was going along quite well in the early stages, but again, obviously a couple of little minor problems and minor errors, and it allowed Kino through early in the race on the first lap, and then later on you just couldn't quite get the position back, and then little errors towards the end, and then a track cut sort of setting you back quite a bit.
Yes, so just need to work on consistency. It's just little problems that you just ruin the whole race for you. So was there to win, but there to lose too.
Yeah, both you and Topher seem to suffer from the same yips, but at the same time you're both always on track together. So if anything,
yes.
I think you've both probably got each other's names etched on the bumpers and fronts and rear bumpers of your cars, because you seem inseparable.
No, even through last season we were always together. So he's a good racer to race. So got nothing bad to say about him. So as long as he doesn't take me off.
Well, obviously a bit disappointing, I'm sure, race 1 would have been, but still to recover to P5 was a solid job. And then again, despite the penalties, you ended up P2 in race 2, so not too bad a weekend, all things considered.
No, so I had worse weekends than season 1, so I want to come out and do better this season. So need to get a win.
Yeah, certainly a win would help, but obviously solid points and 2 finishes in the first round certainly does help towards obviously that championship bid.
Yep.
All right. Well, obviously once again thanks to our podium getters and David Keane, Brendan Ross, and Topher for putting on a good show. Obviously Big Dog was one of the drivers of the race in race 1 there. Again, obviously asking Brenton and Scruff, who would your driver of the weekend be?
Well, it's hard to go past David Keane with the 2 wins, and especially that second race, starting last and coming through to win the race. So, I'd have to go with David Keane.
I would agree. In order for him to win that second race, he had to make up those spots early, and that's exactly what he did.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't think you could get any earlier than from being eighth to literally right behind the leader after one lap. So obviously, race one he was just consistent, didn't put a foot wrong and moved up. And then the second race he just blitzed the start. Obviously, it seemed like the Red Sea parted for him, and he took everything, took all the positions in front of him, and yeah, two perfect races. His consistency was impressive. I don't believe he really put a foot wrong in either race. So yeah, deserving driver of the day. Obviously taking both wins. And yeah, that just about wraps it up. So thanks all to all who joined us, and we'll rewatch this again. But coming up this Thursday, we've got the Supercars on Thursday night from Eastern Creek / Sydney Motorsport Park. On next Sunday, we have the WEC, or World Endurance Championship Series, from Sebring. And next Monday, we have the Automobilista Australia Touring Car Championship. And yeah, we hope to see you all there. And yeah, we'll see. Well, you'll see Stairs and I believe yes, we'll see Stairs and
Another commentator.
another commentator. I can't remember his name.
Bagsy?
That's for Nether.
No, it won't be Nether. I can't remember his name. He's a fanboy. I should know, but
Oh, Madbird.
Madbird, that's the one. You'll see them on Thursday night, and yeah, we'll in the meantime, drive safe.